All right, guys, welcome back. Karate Kid Fanatics back here again. We got our special guest today, Michael H. Cole, aka Young Sid from Cobra Kai Season 1. How are you doing today?
Good to be here.
Yeah, so what made you want to get into, the acting and entertainment industry?
Well, I've been doing this full time for about 25 years, and I've been acting for probably close to 40.
Yeah.
Even when I was a kid in high school, I was doing stuff. My uncle was in an old television show called The Mod Squad, and I grew up around it. And I've actually done stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
and this is just what I do, and so now it's what I do full time.
Yeah, speaking of stand-up comedy, is it tougher to do that than acting?
Stand-up comedy, well, you know right away if the audience doesn't like you.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately. And that can feel very naked when you're up there and you're like going, okay, that didn't go over well.
Yeah.
But you have a pressure on you when you're on set, and you're having to deliver, and even though they're doing multiple takes, that's on them. But if you're messing up the takes because you're not getting your lines right, or you're not doing it the way that they're really needing it to be done, it can really put a lot of pressure on you to make sure that you're, I mean, there's a lot of money. I mean, you could be burning up $25,000 in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
On a set.
Yeah, so what was it like filming your scenes for Cobra Kai?
Well, originally they said they wanted somebody who was somewhat of a lookalike in the physical, not the face.
Yeah.
I was clean shaven when I did it, for Ed Asner.
Yeah.
And so they booked me, and it was interesting because they were more interested in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Than they were in the front.
Yeah.
And so I wound up going there. It was great. It was a wonderful experience, as I really do have a lot of. And so in the process of shooting, I noticed the director was shooting me from the front.
Yeah.
In a lot of the sequences. And I said, so they're using me in where you can actually see me.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, not necessarily. And I went, okay, what? And so he said, well, I want options. So the bulk of the shooting was from behind because they were going to dub in Ed Asner's voice.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking to, my young wife and this young kid and at dinner. And all of a sudden, after we finished, they said, well, listen, if it works out where we don't use you in the front, we're going to bring you back for another role. And I said, that's awesome. It's great. I really love being here. It's a great show. Of course, no one really knew how successful Cobra Kai was going to be.
Yeah.
At that point, we knew it was going to do well, but not this well.
Yeah.
And kind of like The Walking Dead, no one really thought, okay, a soap opera about zombies?
Yeah.
What's that going to do? And they only had 6 episodes. And so I got word that, no, they're including me and in it. And so I said, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. The problem with Cobra Kai when it started out is it was on YouTube, and a lot of people just didn't want to pay for another streaming platform.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But now you're today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole different story.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, what was it like getting to appear on an episode of the Ozark?
Well, that was the first time I got to work with Jason Bateman. And I played a senator on the show. And he was directing the episode. The actress who plays his wife was my interaction with.
Yeah.
And Jason is what we call an actor's director. Meaning he started off as a child actor and became a successful actor, and then also directed. And so when you work with those people that are actors, directors, it really changes the interaction because they understand what an actor needs and how to process what they're doing.
Yeah.
And he made it so fun. There was a point on set where we were doing something, and there was a lot of people in the setup, and something happened, and we had been shooting for so long to get this one sequence down of camera movements.
Yeah.
And somebody dropped something.
Yeah.
And I thought it was an actor. It was one of his crew dropped something, and it just stopped everything. And Jason goes and he starts blowing up, and yelling and screaming. And then he starts laughing.
Yeah.
And he's going, okay, guys, come on. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Then he pretended to drop something, And so he really had a way of bonding with the crew and the cast and making them feel, mistakes are going to happen, but don't worry about it. We're just going to move on. And then I got to work with him again.
Oh, wow.
As a director in The Outsider for HBO. And that's the really scary Stephen King thing. And I'm the one who starts off the show with the dog, and I find the mutilated body of the boy. And then I have to police interview. And Jason, again, remembered me from that. And it was about a year later, actually. And so all of a sudden I'm working with Jason Bateman again. And it was such a good experience.
Yeah. So what was it like to be an acting coach for WandaVision?
Well, I've actually worked, that's the third time I've worked for Marvel. I also did Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Black Widow. And, the origin story of Black Widow. And for WandaVision, it was very experimental for Marvel because they really didn't have a tried and true record of television episodics. And the WandaVision was going to have a very, very unique format. How it was being done. And they were having some issues with the two youngest boys, Billy and Tommy. Jet and Jackson were the actors. And I won't go into the particulars because it really didn't matter, but basically it got down to there's a lot of secrecy, understandably, especially with Marvel. And I've been very vetted with them, and I know what they do. And I basically discovered that the boys needed more prep time. And where adults you could come in and give them a set of sides in the morning and they could go ahead and fix it and get it ready for shooting that afternoon or that late morning. But these boys were 11 and 12 years old, were 10 and 11 years old. And they needed at least a day or two. And so I started working with them, and they immediately perked right up. The kids were brilliantly talented. And Marvel was fantastic. And Madrek, the director, actually brought me in to work with Wanda and Vision and the two boys along with the director. And so that was kind of like a dream. I'm standing there next to a Marvel director and working with these two, Wanda and Vision and the two boys. And whenever he would give direction, I would have to go down with the boys and kind of break it down for them so they could know what they needed to do. And they just did amazing. And I look at the show. I mean, WandaVision has taken off. It's just done very, very well.
So how did you get into being an acting coach?
The first time I was asked to do it was on a show I booked called Teen Wolf with Tyler Posey. And what they needed was a coach to run lines with actors so that they felt that, okay, I'm working with somebody who's a really good actor, and kind of find where the director might want before they get to set or before they do their scene, because it's more cost effective to get the actors up to speed than to try to do that in front of the camera. And I interviewed for it. They interviewed a bunch of different actor coaches here in Atlanta, and Russell was there and Scott, and I just talked to them about my process, and they said, "Oh, that's really great." And I'd already booked the English teacher who starts off the television show. Where I talk about a dead body was found in the woods, whatever, and I'm teaching lycanthropy in the English class. The book about it. And so I'd already done that, so I was already familiar with the cast, and they decided to hire me. And it was a blast working with them. And nothing really happened after that. And then within about a year, somebody got wind that I had been doing this. Part of it was the casting director, George Pierre. And he recommended me to another show. And then another casting director recommended me to interview for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And I worked with the Ravengers. And they had about 125 of them. And I had to get them all up to speed to what they needed to do. And it took an entire week to do that. So it kind of was a slow building and a reputation. And now Marvel basically now reaches out to me because I've already done 3. I actually kind of did a 4th one, the Suicide Squad 2, but I was really more of just the narrator for that. But Marvel's a fantastic company to work for.
So for Marvel, do they shoot the majority of their stuff in Atlanta?
Yes, there were some sequences that they could not do for like WandaVision. The big epic what I like to call the cul-de-sac battle. They needed a green screen set soundstage that was unprecedented in size. And there was really only one, and that was in LA. But everything else was being shot here in Atlanta at Pinewood Studios. And so they shot really the lion's share of it all here.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of, Atlanta, how was the film industry impacted, during the pandemic?
It became very, very slow right when we did Shelter at Home.
Yeah.
Which we're talking, that happened like mid-March of 2020.
Yeah.
And there were still some things that were trickling out, like I'm one of the table readers for Stranger Things.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been brought in for the second season, and then I was brought in for the fourth season. And so they hired me for several days. And this was literally March 12th.
Yeah.
And so I did March 12th, March 13th, and March 14th, Shelter at Home hit. And I thought I was going to be coming back and doing more with them. And then everything went away.
Yeah.
Things started picking up in June because, a lot of people thought, hey, the pandemic is, maybe it's not going to be so bad. Because remember, you were here in March, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all thought it was going to last a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I thought, it just it'll be a few weeks and we'll be back in school, no
Right.
real.
My wife's a public school teacher too. And I have 4 kids. My youngest is still with us, where he's 16. And he goes to Druid Hills High. Actually, he was at Druid Hills Middle School to start with, and now he's in Druid Hills High.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it went crazy on us, and very sad and unfortunate with the fatalities. But June, things started picking back up, and I booked the Oval with Tyler Perry.
Wow,
Fifth time I'd worked for him, and I played Captain Cornell.
That show's crazy.
Captain. What?
That's a crazy show.
It is crazy, but I've worked with him 5 times now over the years, and I love his style of how he directs and how he works with the cast. And you've got to come in there and know what you're supposed to be doing. And so I was in camp. We called it Camp Quarantine at Fort McPherson, and I was there for 16 days. And that really was a blessing to me financially, because it really helped with the loss of work that I'd had earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then things started picking up in auditioning. And so I auditioned for a show in December, and they picked me up as a reoccurring guest star, which I don't have permission to talk about right now.
Yeah.
I actually asked them before, about a half an hour ago, hey, I'm doing this interview with this guy, and I'd love to talk about the show. And they went, well, we don't know yet. And I'm actually keeping my cell phone, because if I do, I would love to talk about the show. It's a true story. And they've booked me out through April this month. So I started shooting in February, and I'll be shooting to the end of April. And then I booked a second project. And so when January hit, everything just kind of recovered for me. Just lots of auditions and the blessing of bookings. And we're actually producing more right now in Georgia than we were pre-COVID.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Right. So we are absolutely back in force.
Yeah. So what is it like, going from being an actor, as yourself, to going to a coach, and then, just to other roles throughout the film industry?
Well, I also run a theater. And
wow.
The theater I called the Renaissance Project. We had to shut down, of course, because of COVID.
Yeah.
But we like to use film and television actors, because a lot of theaters won't use them because of their unpredictable schedules. Yeah. And we had, prior to COVID, we did Death of a Salesman, and prior to Death of a Salesman, we did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah. And for me, this is what I do. I act, or I coach, or I direct. Yeah. And it's just the world I live in.
Yeah. So speaking of your work on the Oval, did you get to go on, were you in the Oval Office set?
Yes. He has built at Fort Mac a full scale replica, 360 of the White House.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, back, sides, front, the whole thing. The front hallway is a replica of the White House. But then after that, there's a lot of variations inside, so they can actually use different setups. Yeah. But yeah, I shot 3 days in there, and it was really pretty amazing what he's able to accomplish. And you have to keep in mind something. He said this to us when we were on the big parade ground. Yeah. He said, the barracks that we were staying in were built in the 1840s.
Wow.
And he noted that they were built by slaves. And
Really?
of course, he's an African American, and he says, and
Yeah.
now I own them, and we're
Yeah.
producing films.
Yeah.
And he said, strange how time changes things.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So is that shot in Atlanta or LA?
Here, Fort McPherson, the old
Yeah.
Fort McPherson. He bought over half the fort and set it up as a show.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was interviewing that said that he bought like half of Army base. Yeah.
Yep, that was it, Fort Mac.
So yeah, what was it like to appear on the Meet the Browns?
That was the first time I ever got to work with Mr. Perry.
Yeah.
And there's Meet the Browns, the feature film that
Yeah.
I was in, and there was Meet the Browns, the television show, and
Yeah.
I was in both.
Yeah.
And the real cool thing was working with Angela Bassett,
Yeah.
who played Tina Turner, most notably, but now she's in everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
is in. And then Rick Fox, the former basketball player, and being able to work with them was amazing. And she's amazing. And I got so connected with Mr. Perry and his style. I just fell in love with it. And I was hoping he was going to bring me back. And
Yeah.
5 different projects later, he called me by my first name the first time he saw me, which was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
He remembered me.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, what was it like to work on Guardians of the Galaxy 2 as an acting coach as well?
That was a very different format of an acting coach because we called it a boot camp. They had selected through an audition process about 125 potential Ravagers.
Yeah.
Because they needed that many. They were going to probably weed them down to about 100. And the problem was none of them had ever done, they didn't even done extras work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had no idea what was going on. And so I had to put them through a boot camp of across the street from Pinewood Studios is this old school building that they bought. And in the gymnasium, and we set it all up there. And of course, me working with 125 men and just me was a very strange experience. So we set it more like a military setup. And I got to meet on the third day or the third day of the boot camp. I was told that Mr. Gunn was coming.
Oh, wow.
James Gunn.
Yeah.
And if I could kind of pre-set up a couple of scenes. Well, I direct theater, so I said, sure, this is a blast. I know exactly what to do. And so we set all the guys up. I said, hey, listen, one of the scenes they need to have guns. Can props send me over a travel case just filled with every kind of weapon you can imagine? And so they said, sure. And so they got it over for me, and we staged it all. Went over the etiquette of not playing with the guns. And they're actually solid plastic, so there's no moving parts on them. And so we staged the scene when they were doing well, I called it the walk the plank in outer space, where they were making people go into a chamber and then they were being flushed into outer space. And so we staged that entire scene where they start chanting, razor face.
Yeah.
And we then did another scene where they actually, in the woods when the Ravagers are all converging on the crashed ship.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to stage how that would look as they were coming up.
Yeah.
And it was such an amazing experience because I prepped the guys, letting them know that I bet you Mr. Gunn is going to stage this 3 different ways. And I'm going to call one first position, second position, and third position. Yeah. So we rehearsed for several hours, all of that with everything. Well, all of a sudden, I thought it was just going to be James Gunn. Well, the entire production staff comes in. Yeah. And led by James Gunn, and he comes up, and he's just such a gentleman and immensely creative. And because he turns everything into a music video. For Guardians. And so he said, let's do that first scene. Okay, so I said first position. The guys did it, and they clapped, and they were taking cell phone videos of it. And I said, would you like to have them do it again? He said, yes. And can they ramp it up, which is exactly what I told them. Well, he didn't know that I had told them that.
Yeah.
So I said, second position, action. We ran the whole thing. I read the lines, and he was like, wow. And I said, would you like to direct them again? And he went,
Yeah.
sure. And so he said, hey guys, can you even give me more of this intensity? Which is exactly what I already prepared them for.
Yeah.
And then he said, action, they did it. And he was like, wow. And so then we did the other thing. And then the next day he said, we're going to invite all the Ravengers with you to set.
Yeah.
So we got put on shuttles and went across to the giant sound stages where they were building the woods and the trees. And it was like, I would have done it for free.
Yeah.
It was just to be around all of that and be a part of it was pretty amazing. And so that was a very powerful experience for me as an actor.
Yeah. So I see where you got a Star Wars poster. Do you
You
want
can see
to
that.
work for some type of, Disney Plus Star Wars type of thing in the
I
future?
wish. I'm a fanatic about.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was a dungeon master in D&D, and my kids are still playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
and I help them with things for it. Now they use a lot of technology, and so I went to Star Wars, the very 1977 when the first one came out, and I
Yeah.
have some memorabilia from it that I collected over the years from it. And
Yeah.
Star Trek: The Next Generation, the new Star Trek with Christopher Pines.
Yeah.
I'm just a total junkie about sci-fi.
Yeah.
That's why Guardians of the Galaxy was awesome, but I just want to act.
Yeah.
Give me his helmet and a laser.
Yeah. So yeah, what is your favorite role or project that you've got to be a part of so far?
Wow. That's a tough one because
Yeah.
every project has its own perks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say working for Marvel in general, it has been a fabulous experience because everything is high quality.
Yeah.
As far as acting, I did a show called Killing Reagan, and it was based on a book, and it was about the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. And when I'm clean shaven and my hair is a browner color, they had to dye it. I'm a real lookalike for James Brady, the press secretary that took a bullet in the head.
Yeah.
And Rod Lurie was the director, and that was a really powerful experience working on that show and playing an actual real person. But I would say anytime I get to play a real person, the show I'm doing right now, I'm playing a real character historically. I did the Jackie Robinson story, and I love playing, being a part of a real story that really, really happened. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your dream role or, dream type of project to work on?
Sci-fi.
Yeah.
To be in something Marvel and not just, I've actually been auditioning for Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
For their projects. Haven't booked any of them yet.
Yeah.
They can pick from all over the world.
Yeah.
For their parts, so it's really, really hard to do. But I love the make believe of being in a futuristic time.
Yeah.
And battling monsters or whatever, or defending aliens. Who knows? But that'd be a real fun thing to do.
Yeah. So what's your advice, for anybody wanting to get into this industry?
Really ask yourself if you want to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with rejection every single week.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're not just rejecting you, they're rejecting everything about you. They don't want you.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you audition, you become a professional auditioner. Yes, find a good agent, but what I would do is I would find somebody that they could talk to. Matter of fact, any of your people that are listening to this, pass my information to them if they want to talk with me. You want to get some good counsel from a mentor that can really tell you what not to do.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake most actors do is they sign with these agencies and the agencies ask them for money.
Yeah.
You never give a talent agent money. Your money goes to the talent agent when you book something.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of talent agencies that they make their money by really stealing money from actors.
Yeah.
The actors think, oh, I need to pay $1,000 or $7,000, to this talent agency, and they're going to get me these auditions. Yeah. They are not supposed to. It's unethical. And really love doing it. I would recommend doing theater.
Yeah.
act, do something. It's like, you, for instance, we talked ahead about you doing your thing and the microphone and all that.
Yeah.
And you've just been doing this since November. But what's amazing is how many more opportunities are going to come to you
Yeah.
the further down the road you take this.
Yeah.
And you could be one of these iconic web people that or YouTube people even that my son loves to tie into,
Yeah.
that get paid very, very well for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's just really exciting that you're tapping into this, but you're going to need to also take some steps to take it in another direction as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The more I've done this, the more I'm kind of considering possibly trying the industry, but we'll see. Just
Why not?
trying to learn from everybody, that I've been able to speak with a little bit.
Absolutely. And you become a personality, and
Yeah.
you're doing great right now. And I'm going to tell my son all about you
Yeah.
and get him to tune in. And I'm going to show him your microphone setup. He's going, yeah, his actually has yours looks like it has a blue light on it. His has this red
Yeah. It's
light
blue.
inside the microphone that illuminates it. It looks really, really cool. But he's not doing what you're doing. And I'm trying to encourage him to do it. And so, but yeah, there's a lot of what I would call blood in the water right now, and the sharks come out.
Yeah.
And because there's so much happening here, a lot of people are wanting to get involved, but there's other ways.
Yeah.
My daughter is a lighting tech and what they call an electric for the film and television industry. And she just finished working on Legion. And for 7 weeks, she's doing lighting for the Atlanta Opera. She just finished. She goes back in tonight to do that. And she goes on tour. COVID cut off that she was on the final show of the Broadway show Rent.
Yeah.
And they cut it short. Well, they just rehired her, and in September they're flying her at all expenses covered to Tokyo.
Wow. Yeah.
To do the tour show Rent there, and then come back and go to a couple other countries. And she's living the dream. And there's a lot of opportunities to get involved in this industry, and not just necessarily from the acting, but from the production side as well.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on today. It's great to be able to speak with you.
Oh, true pleasure. If you need anything, just feel free to reach out.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
You too.
See ya.